Welcome to the Cardmarket studio. Today, Jamin
That's me.
and Carl will be talking about power creep, what it is, and how it's affected the cards we love over time. Before we get into the discussion about power creep, I just need to implore you once more, we really rely on your traction to get our video out. So please, if you are here, comment on your opinions on what we're talking about, like, and please, the most important, subscribe. If you don't subscribe, we have the keys to where Oko is locked and we'll let him loose. But while we're here, Jamin, would you like to give us a small 101 on what we're doing today?
Yeah, the 101 is actually really quite simple because it's just a 1-2 punch. First, we're going to talk about power creep in theory, what it is, because it's been kind of thrown around a lot as a buzzword. And then we'll get into specific examples that you two will remember, because you will remember the old cards and you will surely remember the new cards because they are...
You wish you could forget them.
Yeah, you wish you could forget some of them because some of them are also just awesome. But anyways.
Would you like to just give us kind of a summary of what power creep is and how it has to do with Magic?
Yeah, like power creep has been like a buzzword. I feel like it has become a buzzword also with a lot of the recent like collectible card games that are done digitally. So a lot of people are talking about it and throwing around the term without ever really specifying it, I feel like. But power creep itself is just referencing cards, that new cards that are getting stronger than older cards to keep interest in a game high. You know, if you develop a product and then you release that product, say that product would be a Magic card, a Savannah line, and then that product sells well because Savannah lines is awesome.
Yeah.
Then at some point, people have their Savannah lines. So you gotta get them interested in a new product somehow. And one very easy way to do that is by simply printing a stronger Savannah lines because, well, it's stronger, so you probably want the stronger card, right?
Actually,
Carl?
you need it because then if you keep on playing Savannah Lions, you'll keep on losing to the people playing this stronger card.
Exactly.
So that's how we have things like Sarah Angel. Like one of the best examples is they printed Sarah Angel. Sarah Angel was the best creature in Standard. 5 mana, 4/4, Vigilance. It blocks, it attacks. How do you ever beat it?
Old school players can relate.
Yeah. How do you beat it? By printing Baneslayer Angel. You can just keep on going. At the same mana cost, you can make cards stronger and stronger.
So now, I feel like we should also clarify on the topic of power creep, what power creep is not. Because the strongest cards getting stronger will make for what we just discussed, right? Where everyone will play Baneslayer Angel instead of Sarah Angel. The strongest cards, there's like a huge spike in power with the strongest cards, and that wasn't even intentional. That might have been, you know, there might have been a small rise in power intended, but that rise in power was way above what everyone expected.
And that happens when they print a lot of cards. There used to be 4 sets a year. Now they're printing supplementary packs. They're sending things straight to Commander, straight to Modern, and mistakes happen because you can't just look at all the cards. That's where Hogak happened, but you top 8'd a GP with that card.
I did. Even I could do that.
It was meant to go straight to Commander. They put it in the Modern set, and everyone's like, ho, is this Commander?
I mean, it was Modern Horizons. I think they intended it to have a high power level, but it just went from, like, they intended it to be maybe a bit higher than the regular power level or on par, and it was just out of this world.
So mistakes definitely happen in that case, once for cards. And then secondly, there's also some that have built-in protections to make them not actually too strong. But then if you look at the resources we have around them, we can kind of cheat them in better than they expected. This is things where like Euro or Oko or gold cards in general are usually printed to have the restriction of those colors. But if either everything you're playing are those colors, like in the case of Euro and Oko, or when it's possible to play 3 different colors of mana on turn 3, like in the case of Leovold in Legacy, which is not usually supposed to be a 3-drop, then suddenly you kind of bypass the intended power level for the mana cost because
you just bypass a restriction of the card, and that is usually a great way to be very good in a game of Magic by bypassing a restriction. Look at, I don't know, the Reanimator strategy. Like, you reanimate a 9-cost creature, you just bypass like the restriction. And mana getting crazy strong is showing up recently even more, in my opinion. I'm not sure if everyone agrees on there, but every set nowadays has a very powerful, like, land cycle, just because having good mana base is fun. Like you don't want to stumble on mana, so you want to enable like greedy decks. But that also led to Omnath, a 4-color 4-drop, being like the best card in Standard.
That's the perfect example, because they printed that and they're like, no one's ever going to be able to curve into that on turn 4.
And then people just did. They just did.
But yeah, man, let's roll back in time. Pull out the corn t-shirt. Ice Cube is playing on the radio. What is the best 1-drop creature you can play at the early ages of Magic?
Probably Llanowar Elves.
Yeah, because Llanowar Elves gets to cheat you on mana, and we're just talking about mana curve.
Especially if you're playing casual Magic, you can convince your friends that tapping lets you search for a forest, add to mana.
Don't do that. We do not encourage that.
Even in real Magic, Llanowar Elves is just crazy powerful, right? Like, letting you cheat on mana is like, after you can't play with the Moxen anymore, Llanowar Elves, pretty damn strong. But these days, you would mostly only play Llanowar Elves for its Elves sub-tribe, maybe. I don't think most Elves decklists run any Llanowar Elves.
And why do you not play Llanowar Elves?
Well, first you didn't play it anymore because you had Noble Hierarch, right? Like during Conflux eras, Shards of Alara. It taps for 3 colors of mana and it boosts your attackers that you play. Like, how is that a comparable card? What the hell?
And then, for the same green pip, what could you get later on?
Yeah, at some point, Wizards decided to print Deathrite Shaman, which it seems tame, right? Especially in Standard, it seems tame. You got to play like Evolving Wilds or something to make it work. But in Modern, it just went crazy. A mana dork that doesn't only boost your attacker, no, it just does unpreventable damage. 2 of them every turn. It took over Modern, it took over Legacy.
It's also Graveyard Hate. And buffs up your life total when you're on the attack. It's also a 1/2, so it blocks better than Llanowar Elves. It just eats up 1/1s.
Yeah, but even not only like this was all about mana dorks, even on the beatdown side, things have changed. You mentioned Savannah Lines very early on.
It used to be all-star 1-drop.
Yeah.
How could you get that much value for 1 mana?
1 mana 2/1. Red used to play Jackal Pub, right?
Which would deal you damage. You needed a downside on that card.
Until then, at some point, we got Isamaru. For 1 white, it's a 2/2. But wait, it's legendary.
Can't just get that for free. Can't go throwing around 2/2s for 1 willy-nilly.
Nah, can't do that. Legendary. We've got things under control. It's legendary. Until it turns out that we do not have things under control. Some years later, we suddenly get Wild Nakadal.
Oh, that's a 3/3
But you have to play Mountains and Plains. Still, 1 mana 3/3. Crazy. How could they do that? Crazy strong. Banned in Modern.
Yeah.
Looking at other comparable cards these days just make Wild Nakadal being banned seem kind of ridiculous. Everyone knows where this is headed because this is headed straight to Modern Horizons 2, where we have seen some crazy 1-drops, but one more step in between. First Innistrad, we see Delver of Secrets, a 1 mana 1/1. Ooh, that's very tame. Doesn't do anything.
The Savannah Lines is better than that.
Until it turns into a 3/2 flyer next turn, especially in Legacy, based on almost guaranteed, where you can like brainstorm.
You just untap with a brainstorm before drawing, and then you're for sure attacking 3 power in the air on turn 2.
Once again, it has a restriction that can easily be bypassed, almost too easily maybe in Legacy.
But yeah, man, what's better than a 1 mana for a 3/2 flyer?
There were actually 2 contenders here in Modern Horizons 2. First one being Dragon's Rage Channeler.
Yeah, like that's direct contender.
Yeah, direct contender. 1 mana 1/1, still tame. But
easy.
As soon as you have Delirium, it gets crazy strong. You once again have that 1 mana 3/3 action going on. And tacked on top of that is like a line of text that is so strong in these decks.
It not only helps you get Delirium.
Yeah, it also smooths out your draw, right? Like, how is that fair? You get to Surveil 1 for every non-creature spell you cast?
Which usually you're playing this in a deck that is playing non-creature spells in general, mixed with Modern that really cares about the graveyard.
Yeah, it just feels weird getting that for 1 mana. And honestly, I feel the same about Ragavan, where it just feels weird when your opponent is on the play. Like, you sit down to play a game of Magic, your opponent plays 1 land and 1 spell, and you're like,
oh, if you don't have a removal spell right now,
like
you lose.
This game's over.
They have a Llanowar Elves that draws them cards off the top of your library and is also a Savannah Lions.
Yeah, I think that's something we can take away from today, that a 1 mana 2/1 that creates treasures is better than a 1 mana 2/1 that doesn't.
Would you like to look at the 2-drop spot?
For sure.
Quick? Yeah, because in this around the same time Savannah Lions was running rampant, in 1993, there was one of the best creatures. It was Savannah Lions. You had white was really good. You had Sarah Angel, and you had White Knight. And it was really good if your opponent was playing black, because protection is another story of a broken mechanic. But it was a 2/2 first strike.
Yeah.
And that was good enough. Right home.
We'll play it.
Yeah, and we're just going to jump ahead before, but that's considering Conflux in 2008. They printed Knight of the White Orchid, which could also mana ramp you for kind of the same cost. But first we're going to go to Ravnica City of Guilds, where that's in 2005, where for the same 2 mana, but once again we're looking at the gold being a cost here.
Yeah.
Like you could have Watchwolf, which was a 3/3.
Yeah.
And then, in 2013, they scoffed at the Watchwolf, and they're like, we'll pay 2 mana, it'll be a 3/3, and if you pay 5 at instant speed, it'll be a 4/4.
But indestructible.
And hexproof!
Yeah.
And hexproof. So you can't even exile it somehow. So they presented Fleece Mane Lion. But the reason none of those are anything to write home about is because they did print, it's technically not a creature. But do you want to take a wild gander at what the best 2 mana creature in Standard, ever is?
I would guess you're going with a card that was extremely popular in Standard, which was Smuggler's Copter.
Yes, it even had to be banned in Pioneer. But Jamin, as the talk of the town is on the fact that Planeswalkers are getting more effective and come with passive spells and are costing less, and creatures are getting better and better. Mark Rosewater did say that some things were going down, and it is true that you have started to notice this about spells, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, instants and sorceries have kind of been their own thing. Like, Magic players love having their instants and sorceries and being tricky and playing removal and playing counter spells, but those have been getting a lot worse from very early days to, I would say, the mid days of Magic. Like, if you compare Lightning Bolt to a card like Shock.
Yeah, but that's because mistakes were made. See, in the first cycle, they had this idea where they would take each color of the color pie and give them 1 mana for 3 things that color does well. And they're like, oh, what does green do good? Oh, it makes creatures bigger. Let's give it +3/+3, giant growth. What does black do good? Well, oh, let's give it 3 mana. At the time, it was really focused on swamps. What does blue do well? Draw cards. Yeah, drawing 3 cards. That's the same as +3/+3. And that card is now banned everywhere, except you can play 1 of in Vintage.
Yeah.
Then they were like, what does white do well? And then they're like, gaining life, gaining 3 life. That's about the same as drawing 3 cards.
So spells did get a lot worse, between Lightning Bolt turning to Shock, for example. But in the most recent set, we actually had another solid Shock alternative, which is Play with Fire. You know, the scry 1 if you target a player.
Which is strictly better.
Yeah, it is just a strictly better Shock. So, yeah.
Gradually outmoded it. You also had Consider recently.
Yeah, true. Consider basically strictly better than Opt, especially in formats like Modern, where the graveyard is very relevant.
Because we don't interact with the bottom of our library yet.
But we do interact with our graveyard quite a bunch. So we've kind of seen a different shift in momentum, which, you might say that's power creep, but you might also just say that's a natural fluctuation in power.
Before letting everyone go, just kind of to add to that point, before reintroducing Counterspell to the format, we did see it go down. We started with 2 mana drain, and woohoo! You would counter a spell for 2 mana and then add the converted mana cost to your next turn. That's and they're like, okay, that's a bit too much. Let's leave people with just Counterspell. Mana drain out. And that was just Counterspell for 2 blue pips. And then they're like, okay, that's too much efficiency. So they're like, Mana Leak. It's going to be easier to cast, but if late game they have extra 3 mana laying around, it doesn't actually counter their spell. It's just good early. And then later on, in 2017, in Amonkhet, you actually saw Censor see a lot of play in Pioneer and Standard.
You did.
And at the time, it was good enough. Early, you just counter something if they're trying to curve out. If not, you cycle it out. And that was considered a very good card at the time. And it's miles behind Counterspell.
Yeah, it truly is. There's one more thing I would like to say before we end this video, because I think power creep is often discussed as this purely negative thing, but always keep in mind, playing with powerful cards is fun. You are having fun doing powerful things in Magic the Gathering, so power creep is not this only negative thing to rage on about, but you know, maybe the right balance makes it good.
Definitely. Anyways, we'll see you guys next week. We have a gameplay video. We're playing Pioneer. Ooh. It's going to be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Really, we really need it. I remind you, don't forget, Oko might be coming out. But we'll see you guys next week.